Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So today we are going to be doing more of like a simple sketchbook spread for today's session. Now I have already placed a kind of like matte sticker paper on the other side of this spread, so I do feel compelled to use alcohol markers today. But as we're getting started, I'm probably going to show you guys probably the sketching first, then doing some inking, we'll do coloring, and then some embellishments, I guess is how I'm going to describe it without totally spoiling what we're going to be doing today fully. So in terms of supplies, let's start off what we're going to be using for sketching. So I've been using this multi-pencil or multi-pen for quite a while, and I usually use it for a lot of like my colored leads, especially if I'm using blue or light blue, which we are going to be using today. So to quickly show you guys, actually, I think a lot of people usually have questions about this pencil in particular. So this is the lead that I like to use if I'm using this particular multi-pen, because it only takes the 0.5 I'm gonna say like refill or like cartridge for the multi-pen itself. So basically you can pop off this cap at the very top, and they have like these interchangeable parts. So I have selected the mechanical pencil part. I even have one that's for an eraser, and then you can have ones that you can use with actual like pen and ink. So I believe it's like the High-Tech C is the one that's compatible with this one. But I decided to kind of show you guys how I also switch out the lead. So you can take out the bottom half and the top half of the little pencil portion and refill the lead that way. I thought I had to refill the blue one today, but I ended up seeing that we still have 2 pieces left. So I ended up checking or placing away that little nub of our blue pencil lead, and we're just gonna use a new one and start off with, you know, sketching for now. But even though I talked a lot more about the light blue lead earlier, I found that it was a little bit difficult for you guys to be able to see what I'm sketching for a couple of reasons. One, the lighting in my room is very dim. So I ended up like opening up curtains for one of the windows that I have in this room, or like the only window that's in this room. And the light kind of kept fluctuating, so it's gonna go like dark to light, but because of that, my gain on my camera is kind of like messed up, so it became very overexposed, so the light blue did not show up on camera very well. So I ended up switching to kind of our just normal blue color. It's kind of like a bluish purple kind of color, and I found that it shows up a little bit better than the light blue, so hopefully it's not too bad. I am going to be playing most of this in time-lapse anyways, because I feel like it's a little bit easier for you guys to view, and it gives me a little bit of a break for anybody who might not like or enjoy the longer videos. It also gave me a break so that I don't have to do a full talking video for like 2 hours-ish and then cutting down the footage, if that makes sense. But let's talk about what exactly we are drawing or sketching today. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I already placed a matte sticker paper on the back side of the current page that I'm working on. So this is like the left side of the spread. And whenever I use like sticker paper to cover up a page, usually it's either to cover up bleed through, or I'm prepping the page because I want to use markers. So I already had an inkling that I wanted to use alcohol markers for this side, but I didn't know exactly what. I think I was actually geared towards doing a Witch Hat Atelier spread, but I was kind of like torn on who to draw. I was thinking maybe I was gonna draw the 4 girls once more, but do alcohol markers so we could play around with some of the colors. But I ended up drawing Ohuhu on the opposite side with alcohol markers, but because of the bleed through not showing up on this page, I might as well utilize the fact that we're also not going to have bleed through for at least one side of the page, even though the right side will have some bleed through. So we are going to be using alcohol markers a little bit later. But in terms of what we're drawing, before I get too sidetracked, I decided to draw my OC Selwin. So I, for some reason, just felt compelled to draw some cute outfits. I am drawn to towards sweaters and chunkier clothing. So I decided to draw Selwin with 2 different kind of like, one's more of like a cable knit sweater, and then the one in the middle is more like a cardigan, and then kind of a turtleneck-ish type of sweater in the inside. And then the last one you're gonna see is kind of more just like an open button down, I guess. I had an idea for what I wanted to do for this, but I don't think I could execute it quite well without having to do either one major rendering, accidentally smacking my hand on my desk, or doing it, I don't know how exactly I would do this. Maybe colored pencils, pencil crayons. So maybe we'll reattempt this in the future and maybe we can use pencil crayons instead. Otherwise, maybe I'll save it for like a digital drawing, because my idea was actually to make the top of this more like midnight blue, almost like a black to blue-ish kind of ombre or gradient, but the top is going to be more like sheer, and then him having a lighter turtleneck sweater or something underneath, or just a shirt underneath that's a little bit more on the lighter side, so that you can have that color pop through. And I thought it could be cute that if the color combination could resemble his eyes, so maybe the inside shirt could be more like orange to yellow, very pale, or very neutral kind of earthy tone, something like that, because I don't want to go too bright. And then the top could be more of like a blue to navy, similar to the upper portion of Selwyn's eyes. So I thought that could be cute. I might play around with the idea. Oh, let me talk about this actually while we're still working on the sketching portion. So after we finish sketching, we are going to work on line art, and I'm going to talk about inking. Actually, we're going to talk about inking first, because I just realized where we are in the video. So at this point for the sketching, I don't really mind if things are like very messy or scribbly or whatever. We are going to be doing inking and then erasing a lot of the blue lead anyways, but I also don't mind if the blue kind of remains while I'm doing some of the alcohol marker portion, because it is a sketch, so I don't really mind if those lines show through. But this is the overview, and we can move on to the actual erasing. So I wanted to do a light pass of just erasing the kind of blue lead first, because well, I think for mostly like two reasons. So one is the fact that I want to have less debris or stuff on the surface of the paper so that the ink can dry and adhere properly. And then the second reason is the fact that it's easier for me to see my lines if there's not too much going on. So I feel like I can concentrate just on the line work. Also, if you're not familiar with a kneaded eraser, I highly recommend, if you can get your hands on one, try to use it, because you can use it to lighten up your drawings and stuff, as well as just cleaning up debris and all that stuff for any dry medium. I love using a kneaded eraser, and then as I was kneading it, I was basically cleaning it because it was covered in that blue lead earlier, and then me kneading it ended up cleaning it, and it's back to its normal state. So before we move on to the other topic that I wanted to talk about, inking. So I feel like in other sketchbooks, I have almost always done a test in terms of like testing different pens or ink that I want to use in the sketchbook to make sure that things dry properly. So I got curious. I could see that the paper had a little bit of shimmer, and it meant that the ink was not drying. So I noticed that this, Energel Klena combination that I usually have in my pen dries super fast. And I always like the fact that it dries super fast, because I don't have to worry about smudging or smearing, and I can work fairly quickly. But you kind of saw that earlier, I kind of like pressed my index finger on the one little eye that I had, and it did leave a little bit of residue on my finger, which made me a little bit worried. I myself am like an anxious person, so I do sometimes get like clammy hands time to time. So maybe I was like thinking to myself, oh, maybe it's my hands that might have a little bit of oil or moisture, so maybe it's picking up the ink, which is kind of like not good thinking per se, because if it was the oil, I feel like it wouldn't have budged. If it was actual like water, maybe it would pick up. But I noticed that the ink just wasn't drying the same way for certain areas, because I did see a lot of like shininess and shimmering from the ink at times, especially if I'm concentrating it. So let's say where the eyes are, I guess, or any area that has like filled in black, I guess, like more dense areas were probably going to be prone to any type of smudging, which you'll see later actually does happen. I don't know if it's because there is stuff on this page and maybe it's not adhering properly. Maybe it's the type of ink I bought this time. So usually I buy my inks for my Energel Klena kind of like in a batch. So whenever I place an order on JetPens, which is the website that I order from, I try my best to refill the inks that I need for that time, because I don't order from JetPens like too often. I like to do batch order if I can, and only have to do it maybe like once a year or even less. So I have been burning through a lot of like my black black ink for my Energel Clana quite quickly. So instead of ordering it from Jet Pens this time, I think I was trying to avoid the tariff situation because they are US based and I am in Canada. I decided to look on Amazon to check whether or not there was any refills of the same type, and I did find a pack of 12, I think, of the same type. So actually, let me grab my pen so I can tell you guys which one it is. Or let's see. I have a bag here and it shows it. So the ones that I usually buy are the Energel Gel Roller Pen refills in 0.5, and I usually get like a bunch of different colors if I want to test it out, but black and dark blue are like my absolute favorites, as well as like a teal color or turquoise. And I always buy the ones that are the LRN5. Now, earlier when I was doing the inking and I was doing kind of like that little mini smudge test, you would have saw that I decided to pull the little refill out of the pen to double check, and I was trying to make sure that it also read LRN5 on it, and it does, I think, because the ones that I currently use that I get from Jet Pens have LRN5 all capital letters, but the ones that I have for the one that I use for inking right now has LRN5, but the L is a lowercase, and I hope it's not an I, like a capital I. Otherwise, yeah, maybe it's not the same type of ink. I'm gonna do a little bit of testing to see if maybe it's the paper or it was maybe just the off chance that it just didn't dry. Because at this point, while I'm doing another pass of erasing since we finished the inking portion, I did notice once again that there was some smudging, and it was from the denser areas of black. So it kind of sucks, the fact that usually it's my favorite for inking. It usually is very fast and usually has no smudging. It's perfect for like alcohol markers because it doesn't smudge with the inks for alcohol markers as well. It's just my favorite to use. So suddenly having a problem like this, I'm just kind of baffled right now. So speaking of coloring, we are using the Ohuhu, I think these are the pastel markers maybe. It's a smaller set. I decided to just pull it out to see what we had in it because I didn't want to pull out my larger case of alcohol markers. And luckily I did this because it kind of helped me not have too much of like, is it decision fatigue or like being paralyzed by too many choices, I guess. So in this case, I decided to stick with the colors that we had available in this particular pack. So I decided to color his skin tone, then we're going to color in his hair. I forget to do his eyes. I think I do them off camera, and then we'll just like color in his clothes, because I was kind of debating on whether or not I was going to keep these more like two-toned like I usually do, or if I'll go more towards like local color, I guess, or trying to keep things a little bit more accurate. But I think the coloring is kind of like more straightforward, and we're gonna like zip through that, and we'll have kind of like one more step after that we need to do before we finish this kind of like little spread of Selwyn. So while we are doing the coloring, let me go on a little bit of a tangent. Not quite a tangent because it's still relating to my OC Selwyn. So I think, let's see, today is Monday by the time you guys are seeing it. I think I did this like 3 or 4 days ago, so maybe on Thursday, Friday-ish, I ended up updating a little bit on my Artfight account because I got curious on something, so I wanted to double check, and I decided to take a break and kind of upload Selwyn's like references on there. And you know, it was kind of like making me think, do I actually want to include Anka and Arakan to the roster? So I do have to eventually make the reference sheets for the both of them. Now, I think I talked about it in the past where Anka's design, I think, is kind of like finished. She's kind of just done at this point. Arakan is like, I'm still fussy with how I want to draw him, and I feel like I'm just not confident with how I want to draw him, because one, I want it to be comfortable enough for me to continuously repeat drawing him over and over again, but two, I just don't like what he looks like right now. So I'm gonna fiddle around to see if we can change his design just a smidge. He's a little bit, I don't know, maybe I find him too similar to what Akemi looks like, and then he's a little bit too plain for me. So I'm gonna do a little bit of experimenting. But because of that, I just wanted to let you guys know that Selwyn will be on Artfight this year. Anka and Arakan are gonna be up in the air for now. I don't know if I have any other OCs I'm going to make or revive to be put onto art fight particularly. It might just be Selwyn. If I can, I will put Arakan and Anka. Maybe just like Anka at this point if I can't get Arakan finished by July. But we still have like a few months to go, so it should be okay. We'll see. I know there's like a few people who do like Arakan as he is now, so maybe we'll just do a little bit of tweaking and then I will eventually make reference sheets for the both of them and upload them. So even like a tangent from that, but still like somewhat related. I am excited for Art Fight this year because I just love looking at characters. So I was actually looking at the characters in just like the browse function on Art Fight, and I decided to just like go ham and bookmark a lot more characters. So I probably sort them eventually once the theme and the teams come out so that I know who to attack. But kind of like relating to just wanting to draw characters because I love seeing people just talk about their OCs, and there's like so many designs that I really love. I am going to do another drawing your OCs in my art style video, and I feel like I want to do one every month, I think is what I want to do. So I'll keep popping back into the community post and checking in and picking OCs from that. But if you guys are hearing this and you submitted an OC, if your reference is very large, if you can, feel free to re-upload or post another post on my community tab so that you can post something that's a little bit more closer up of the character. So I mostly do like portrait or like bust up shoulder-ish area for the characters, and some people who have like massive reference sheets, they appear super tiny on my screen as well as like on desktop as well. So when I try to draw just the upper portion of the character, the details are very, very tiny, so it's very hard for me to interpret. So I want to do your character justice. So if you would like to revamp how you posted your OC on the community tab, please do that so that I can do your character justice, because I would love to do that more often, but I want to see if I can do it at least once a month. So I'm going to squeeze it in for the last week, or this week I guess would be the last week of February, since February is like a nice good block shape for this month. So yeah, feel free to submit your characters once again. I'm going to be checking the community tab later this week so that I can pull a few more and do another drawing your OCs in my style video for probably the last day of February, I think. But enough of the tangents. I think I talked over everything. Basically, after I finished doing some of the colors for Selwyn and the outfits, I thought everything looked too plain and flat. So I went ahead and did a lot more inking. So I was trying to focus on providing more shadow, a little bit more depth, a lot more contrast, and just trying to make sure that the lines really popped. Mostly for the outfits, I didn't really add too much back into like the face and the hair. I mainly cared about like adding sweater texture, darkening up some shadows to make the clothes kind of like feel more bulky and have more weight. So yeah, I feel like it helped quite a bit. And this is kind of what I mean that I wanted to have his top or whatever be a little bit more sheer for the drawing on the very right hand side. I would like to play around with it because I have a very cute idea that I can do. And I'll talk a little bit more about like Selwyn's lore and backstory that I've been thinking about, because there's stuff that is from his old design and stuff that kind of like intertwines with his current one, I think. Yeah, I'll talk about it in a different video since we're at the very end basically. But here's the bleed through as well, what you can see. So it's quite a bit since this paper in this notebook is fairly thin. But yeah, I think that's it for today's video, and I will see you guys next time in the next video. Bye!